16. Oh, yeah, that's normal.
I agree. I'm a dope.
We have to slab it.
Even outside, it's packed.
All right. I think it's working. All right, we got to get to it. We got to get it going on. All right, everybody. Hit that like. We're about to start. Here we go. Why am I like live word all cattywampus? Move this over. Move this up here. There we go. That's a little better. Looks like it just said live, which is not a bad message, I suppose. Right now. Okay, now. 3, 2, 1. This. Hey, yeah, there it works. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Is my mic on? Everything's good. It's always weird when I go do the jam and I'm gone for a day and it feels like 100 years because I'm so used to hanging out with you guys. It's a very peculiar thing. Welcome to the show. Please hit that like right out of the gate and think about supporting the show via Venmo over there, or you can become a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/HalSparks, or you can, I guess you can like and subscribe, whatever place you are at, wherever. I bring my show to you. I don't need to, just corral everybody to one site. But if you are on that site or you participate in that site at all, and many of us are pansital, pansite-ish, pansocial. I'm going to go with that as far as social media. I'm going to go with pansocial. That's what we're going to call it. That you can, in your pansocialness, while you're, exploring the parts of your social nature, then I would suggest you jump over to infotainmentwars.com, which is our YouTube page, and subscribe over there. Or you could, of course, become a Twitch subscriber. We're trying to aim for our 100K situation and the like. And yeah. Also, programming note, today's show will just be an hour this morning because I'm going to jump over at 10 my time and hop onto Bob Seska's show. So yeah, I don't know if he does it live or we're taping it and he airs it a little bit later or whatever. I'm fairly certain it's live. Anyways, I'm going to jump over there. So I hope that's okay. And then we'll have a regular show this afternoon with all the, the campaigny stuff that's happening, and there's a bunch of stuff. And I think my favorite part is the Comer Hunter Biden thing absolutely shitting the bed again. Transcript coming out that the art dealer is they're like, did you ever talk to Joe Biden about business? Absolutely not. Did he ever promise you favors? Absolutely not. Did any of the buyers expect any favors? Absolutely not. Like over and over again, under oath, right? That they're not, and I'm just going to tell you, they're not going to bring that guy up in front of the committee. That said, I'd bring you guys up in front of the committee. I would, because there you are. Look at you, lovely people. Yeah, there we go. A couple things. Did anybody watch / pay attention to the Nikki Haley, banana fest yesterday, where everybody's pretending on one hand it's like a fait accompli, and another hand that there's an actual race going on that will result in Donald Trump winning back some of his voters? Not going to happen. Can I just tell you that the exit polling around Haley and Trump should terrify any Trump campaign person, because there is no fucking way that, first of all, Democratic turnout would have to be so muted to have it even equal to Republican turnout. The only time we ever lose is at this point is never in the popular vote. It's always the Electoral College, and the turnout has to be muted to a certain I would say probably, Democratic turnout would have to be down by 20% to be a one-on-one with Republicans in general. That's a lot of fucking people. And at this point, Donald Trump is he's already alienated. If you just brought every Republican that's registered, period, and you had this 20% dent in, in Democratic voters because of the idiots in New Hampshire, bless their hearts, who were writing in ceasefire on the New Hampshire primary ballot, the Democratic, writing in ceasefire. Okay, couple of things. These are the same assholes that in 2016 handed the presidency to Donald Trump. Secondly, it ain't our war. And there is no way the United States can force Israel to ceasefire anything. Even in asking, we got a temporary one. And these motherfuckers are like, what have you done for me lately? Ultimately, this is another country's fight that we are really in the business of giving them a fly swatter against missiles. That is the large part we play in this. Most of what we give is defensive. Secondarily, and I don't know how to say this clearly enough to that crowd, there was a ceasefire. 2018, when Donald Trump handed over the Golan Heights and recognized Jerusalem as the capital and moved the embassy and talked about all that shit, Yahweh Sinwar sent a note in Hebrew to Benjamin Netanyahu and said, we want to take a chance on a conditional ceasefire. And that's exactly what Netanyahu, who for the record is trash, did. Because he had a different priority. As a corrupt piece of shit, he was fighting his own corruption battles and didn't want to spend time having to bat down Hamas and all these guys. And he thought, wow, shit, if I could basically buy the peace the way we did with the Palestinian Authority and the PLO way back in the day, if I could do a similar thing with Hamas, then we both get peace out of it and they could start growing and I could take that as credit while I'm trying to do all this fucking judiciary shenanigans that he was trying to do, right? And it held for all practical purposes. Now, they're inside Gaza. There was also the Islamic State. There's the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. There's the other groups, right? And they all of them, Hamas is the main one, but they all dig up water pipes and turn them into bombs, twist them on one end like a fucking water balloon, and they fill them with explosives, and they launch dumb rockets into Israel. And Israel, for the most part, bats them down as best they can. That's what occurred since 2018. Until the ceasefire that was in place was broken by Hamas on October 7th, specifically in the most vile and barbaric attacks on civilians that we have seen, because we don't pay attention to Darfur anymore, apparently, but we have seen, especially on the Jewish people, since the Holocaust. There was a ceasefire, and Netanyahu said yes to it. And then Hamas broke it on October 7th. Now, here's the question. You know what they did on October 7th? You know that they hacked, over 50 babies to pieces. You know that they threw some of them in ovens. You know they killed entire families. You know they abducted teenage girls and raped and murdered them and then paraded their bodies through the streets of Gaza while regular Palestinians threw shit at the dead body and spit on it and all that kind of stuff. And that was how Hamas broke the ceasefire. That was how they broke it. There was no, this is the same situation we're in with fucking Russia and all these apologists dicking around going, well, it was the encroachment of NATO and there was like a last straw. There was no singular interval, no moment, no hinge point where Russia was like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. And by the way, Mr. Spock, no, they're not debunked. The beheading issue was it. The children that were beheaded, there were not 40 beheaded children. They were chopped up children and dead babies. And a few of them were beheaded. The only question was it before or after they were killed? It's a stupid argument. There is no question. Dozens and dozens of children. It's indefensible. Don't even try. The point is, there was no singular incident on October 6th or October 5th or October 1st or August 10th or fucking June along this way that triggered October 7th. It was simply they picked the time of their breaking the ceasefire and moved on it. The same way Russia did not have some big, the United States and our NATO allies did not finally place missile defense weapons in Ukraine or move them closer to the fucking border. They didn't. Russia decided to do this on their own while everybody else was being civilized. Okay? Now, neither one of those was started or affected by U.S. policy in the region, except for, I would argue, back a while ago, Donald Trump recognizing the Golan Heights and giving, moving the capital, recognizing the capital, moving the embassy, rather, that was a trigger point, that they were like, fuck off, right? Mr. Spock says, show us the proof. Go to the Telegram channel. Go look up Hamas Telegram channels. I would show you, but I would get my channel shut down because of the violence. It is not hard to find. So anyways, but there was no, thing that is indisputable, I think, in the crowd is that there was no distinct action on October 6th that Israel did that triggered October 7th any more than there was something in, fucking December of 2021 that triggered Russia into attacking Ukraine. It was their decision and they moved on it. Period. Yeah. Yep. Agreed? Do we at least agree on that? That there was no, how so Israel is punishing Hamas for breaking ceasefire by murdering Palestinians? Well, Hamas fighters are Palestinians. They use their own people as human shields. There have been more bombs dropped than human casualties, which is hardly something that would happen. And we've talked about this before. If you have the most densely populated place on Earth with 2.4 million people packed in this, and you're saying they're indiscriminately bombing, there is no way that indiscriminate bombing kills fewer than 20,000 people or 25,000 people. In months, this has been going on. It's just patently false. But that's not even the point. The point is, it should end. We'll see. Right now, both sides are saying there's no chance of a two-state solution, period. The Hamas is saying no chance of a two-state solution. Netanyahu has said it, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to bullshit you guys just because you've had your empathy hijacked. And again, here's the thing. I want to make sure that you know that your emotional response to it is absolutely right. Because nobody wants innocent people to die. That's not the point. So, yeah. Washington is about the size of Gaza is the size of Washington, D.C. with over 3 times the population. Right. Imagine indiscriminately bombing Washington, D.C., with no warning and allegedly no warning, and the death toll being that size. I don't mind you guys being empathetic towards these folks, but your empathy is being hijacked by the most awful people. Now, ultimately, that is for you and I, unless you are watching this from Israel or Gaza, or you are watching this from Iran, or you are watching this from Sudan, or you are watching, from, the Donbass, These discussions for you and I are academic. They are, to some degree, political, but they are not in your lap. And if you feel like they are emotionally, then the question is, if this one's in your lap, why isn't Sudan? If this one is in your lap, if defending the Houthis' attacks on carrier ships is important to you, then why did you not defend the child soldiers and the child brides that the Houthis took from the other Yemenis? Why is this the thing that stirs you up, and the rest of it is just, it's never going to enter into your sphere of concern? Yeah? Scotty, no, killing 15,000 kids is not fine. That's not the point. They're not targeting kids. Israel is not targeting kids. Israel is not targeting children. Israel is not targeting children. They're not even targeting hospitals. They are clearing hospitals with soldiers. They are not bombing them. And there's a difference. They are putting their soldiers, they lost 24 of them because they are, and by the way, because they were fired upon while they were approaching a place that they don't have to go into. You could technically say, if people were to say, if what people say about the IDF is true, then they would just blow the hospital up rather than fucking going in there. The structures of the hospital still exist. And again, you can criticize how Israel is carrying this out. You can criticize even arguably that they're even carrying it out at all. That's not the problem I have. The problem is the selective outrage. That's my problem with it. That's my problem, the selective outrage. And in this particular instance, in terms of internal U.S. politics, the people who wrote in ceasefire in the New Hampshire primary, those folks, the slacktivists who think, A, that will have an impact on the general politics, and that if Donald Trump is in office and Joe Biden isn't, that there will be any measure to this approach. That Donald Trump, the man who recognized the Golan Heights and moved the embassy to Israel and, to Jerusalem and recognized Jerusalem as the capital, that guy, to curry favor with the Israeli bloc in the States and in his mind, even if whether it would or not, because there's a lot of variety, a lot of political dissent in Israel itself, that anyone who thinks he'll make it better or even moderate it is fucking insane. The Biden administration and Tony Blinken and their little team negotiated the ceasefire that we did have, the humanitarian ceasefire. They're currently negotiating a humanitarian corridor. That's what they're working on. That's as much as we can do. The only thing we could do to make an absolute ceasefire is refuse to support the Iron Dome, not give them any materials for it, which would not result, by the way, in less Palestinians getting killed. It would just mean more Israelis would get killed, and therefore it would be open war. And the lack of a shield would make the Israeli response more of a sword. It would be the only option they would have. Why care about famine in one country if you don't care about all world hunger? No. All world hunger is not the same. And you don't handle all world hunger the same. Does that make sense? Tom? There are some people who are starving because of blight or crop devastation or groundwater poisoning or any number of things. There are some people who are starving because they are refugees, because they are outside a certain place. There are some people who are starving inside a country that we can get aid to, and there are some people who are starving inside a country that we can't get aid to. It's not about what you care about. It's about what you can do something about. And the illusion, again, this goes to sort of the stroke of the pen fallacy. The idea that somehow the United States can fucking sign a piece of paper and aid just flies in. The Israelis have let in 10,000 aid trucks in the last 3 months. The only thing keeping more aid from going in is more aid itself. You think Palestine's going to cease to exist? Palestine doesn't actually exist. There's never been a Palestinian state. There's been a Palestinian named territory. Again, the Romans called it that to fuck with the Jews. And then the British named it that to fuck with the Jews. They named it after the people that beat them in a war a long time ago. And then the Jews won again. And then in the balancing act of controlling powers in that area, they were always sort of poking the Jews about stuff. Yeah. Yeah, but the idea that, by the way, the whole point is that isn't with people who genuinely care about this or even themselves could come up with a solution in this situation or want a specific solution to happen. It's that they will predicate their vote for Biden, who is mitigating the U.S. response, I think, as best you can, and threaten to give their vote to someone like Donald Trump, who will fucking tell them to bulldoze the place. Did the Ukrainians shoot down a civilian Russian plane? No, they shot down a spy plane. Shot down an A-50. Yeah. Let all Israelites immigrate to and cut the area loose. I got to tell you, 250K ohm, I completely agree. Now, you guys know also that I make a very strong distinction between religion and superstition. And religion to me is a connection to a spiritual idea or a particular deity or whatever works for you. But a superstition is that you have to wear a certain kind of hat, or you gotta, or these particular rocks are special, or you got to wear a symbol, or you're not reflective of that, right? And there's a thin line, I think, between the superstitious wearing of a cross or a Star of David or even a half moon or whatever the religious symbol that you want around your neck. There's a thin line between a superstitious use of that symbolism and gang wear. And I would argue that, like, if we look at somebody like Mike Pillow, for example, the cross he's wearing is not indicative of his behavior scheme or his ethics or his morals by any stance. What it is a way to signal to other people that I'm on your team, buy my shit. And so even then, I don't think he thinks it has like the power to drive back vampires. If it was being encountered by a vampire in real life, work with me on this, Mike Pillow versus the vampires. He would not have an urge to pull this thing off his lapel and hold it up and go, by the power of Christ, I compel you to leave me alone. He would just cower and fall over and get killed. Because it's to him, it's like wearing a Shriner's pin or a Rotary pin or when some folks. Well, it's like when the Freedom Caucus and all those assholes, like the Republicans are always about wearing an American flag on their collar, and yet they fight against the individual freedoms and liberties of Americans that they don't like all the time, right? So in that case, to them, it's a gang symbol. It's not actually the symbol of the thing itself. Now, does that mean it's devoid of the symbology that it actually has earned? No. Just because someone misuses a symbol doesn't mean the symbol is owned by them, right? Why do I have a Z on my chest? It's a Zoltan. That's why. You don't get to claim my fucking hand symbol from Dude, Where's My Car? And you kidding me? So, you can't stop. Yeah. Sorry, the chat room is very alive, and it's a good conversation. But like I said, in Mike Pillow's sense, it's gangware. In other people's sense, it's like superstition. If I touch this thing, or if I hold it, or whatever, if I pray holding it, my power, to pray or speak to my particular deity will have more power and influence because I'm holding a symbol of it. That, to me, is fucking silly, because God is either everywhere or it's nowhere. And the idea that somehow, like, you found the magic rock is just so fucking Tolkien that, yeah, I find it silly. And that is, in many ways, the problem we have. Above all, there are two primary problems, and they're almost parallel, but not quite. The superstition, particularly Mecca, Medina, and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and the power of Bethlehem, and people wanting to basically be spiritual tourists there, whatever. those places, and oil. And that combination, our need for oil and our inability to find replacements for it for decades and decades and decades, built up the financial power of the people who believe in magic rocks. That's the problem. Once the oil runs out or we stop using it, then nobody gives a shit if you think your rocks are magic. Does that make sense? Because who cares? Yeah. So I personally believe all rocks are magic. I think the entire earth is fucking amazing. And the idea that one particular point or even 3 particular points or even 7 particular points or wherever you built someplace in your I don't know, like the Mormon tabernacle or the fucking David Koresh's compound or something, that people believing in, to some degree, hallowed ground, is sort of absurd. Yeah. So, anyways, other than that, I have no opinion. Can you imagine if China invaded mainland USA and said, well, the USA never existed in the first place? Yeah, I mean, that's... I'll give you an example. Okay. If the U.S. Constitution said all Chinese people must be killed, must be eradicated, yeah, you have to add that detail to your analogy. Now back up and do the analogy again. Yeah, those are 2 hands. Yes, the rock we are floating on through space is amazing. I agree. People use rocks to get engaged. That is true, but that's symbolism. And in many ways it's sort of like easier than wearing a chastity belt. You can see the quality of commitment here. This is what you're going to have to beat this to get this. Does that make sense? Yeah, people use rocks to symbolize their love, but it isn't their love. And they don't actually, nobody like, I don't know, maybe it sort of softly does it, but if somebody's like making a pass at you in the bar and you're like, get back, the power of my ring compels you. Get thee behind me, harlot. It's just cheap. It's a representative chastity belt. Yeah. Tread carefully. On which part? You have to be more specific. I'm making so many points. Be gone, thought. Right. No, diamonds are not rare anymore. They were at one point. They're not anymore. Yeah. And I'm sorry to tell you this, all the people who believe that, in the ads that both Tom Hartman and Glenn Beck run, the fiat currencies are not going to collapse. The U.S. dollar is not going to take a giant shit all of a sudden, and you're not going to be able to pay for stuff with gold like you're in a fucking Ayn Rand short story or John Wick 6. It's useless. I swear to God, the gold aspect of it is like one of the only reasons it became, fancier than does it, Cynthia? Does it actually work as your ring to keep people away? Yeah. Yeah, I know you can make your artificial diamonds are purer than, naturally occurring diamonds and all that kind of stuff. And for the record, it is my will says that I, if whenever I pass, if I can't be turned into AI or whatever, I want to be cremated and have my ashes turned into a diamond, and etched inside the diamond is my genetic code, and then I want to be shot into space. See if somebody can unpack me at some point. Yeah, that's the goal. I'm not kidding. And yeah, that's my goal. Why? Why not? I mean, I understand. Most people would like to have their ashes dumped off the edge of the sea and blow back in their face like the dude, you know. Hell's packed. Well, yeah, I think so. You love wearing your multiple gold earrings. Yeah. Side clapped plastic jug would have more value than gold. Excellent point, Luke. Excellent point. Yeah. Like, I give you all this gold for a shovel. Nah, fuck you. I go. If you want one, you go fight your way past the zombies into the goddamn Home Depot where they're all stacked in there because some dumbass thought it would be a good place to stack dead bodies when the first wave came, and then they all woke up, and I managed to get the last shovel. There's a bunch of shovels in there. Knock yourself out. No. There's a big pile of shovels in there. Just go get one. Right. It's a gold shovel. That wouldn't do you much good, though. It'd be kind of limited. Al, did you see the Three Toes MTG hollowing monkey? Which Mitch Flinger shit at everyone this morning. No, I mean she's. I don't think it's any surprise that Haley got within I don't know what the current count is, but she's looking like 6%, something like that in New Hampshire. And they were trying to get it towards double digits, and Trump was like picking a moment where he was at double digits in some city. But ultimately, she's getting closer and closer, and you just have to understand that. And again, half of Haley's voters are never fucking voting for Trump, and a good portion of those, about 80% of those folks, are voting for Joe Biden. Called it rigged? Oh, right. Because that's how the system's been there for fucking ever. Good Lord. I don't suspect that we should be surprised that they're going to call everything rigged. You know what's funny? Here, I'll show you a funny story. This struck me. Here you go. Remember Trump, oddly enough, picked this week to talk about, release a video about getting us out of NATO, and if NATO doesn't act right, we're going to get out of there. And Orban's response to it seems to be that he urged the Hungarian parliament to approve Sweden's NATO application at the earliest opportunity. This is the guy, Viktor Orban, very powerful, very strong leader, very strong. I can smell him all the way over here. He smells like, I don't know what that is. It's probably some sort of Hungarian sausage smell. I don't know. We can't find out. But, right. That literally the same week, Trump puts out this fucking video calling for us to back away from NATO and kissing this dickhead's ass and using him as an example. Like, he said, you want to fix the world? Get Trump back in office. And then basically Orban was like, nope, I'm just kidding. Make sure Sweden gets in there. Oh, yeah, fucking Bozmag. Seriously, man. Yeah. This is just stupid. Why do we even do this? Yeah. And they're going to do it too. It's Orban by Chanel. Right? Did I see the word salad last night? I saw it every night. We'll cover his speech this afternoon in the regular show. I've only got about 20 minutes left here, and then I'm gonna jump over to Bob Seska's show. And I gotta say, the big takeaway for me in all this is, let me get you guys back up here. The big takeaway for me in the New Hampshire thing is just the power of the never Trump vote. It is overwhelming. And the thing is, they think they're going to bring over, maybe pick up some of the fucking slack with suburban women or independent voters. It's not going to fucking happen. There's been a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth about voters that Biden might lose because of the stroke of the pen fallacy, because these assholes think that he can fix everything. Thank you, Christina, for the super chat, by the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. Share us out right now. That really helps, too. Let people know we're here. And hi, Instagram people. Hello. How are you? That, that Trump won last night. Like, Joe Biden didn't even run or even present a campaign and got 73% of the vote in New Hampshire. And the rest of, like, everybody else, the Dean Phillips Dean Phillips got more than Marianne Williamson did. And he was all over that fucking state. And so was Marianne. And she got 5% And all of those people, well, I'll take it back. There's probably about 2% of that group of people, the Dean Phillips and the Marianne Williamson voters, who are not going to vote for Biden in the election because they're going to, clamor on about the same shit that helped Nader give us George W. Bush and helped give Donald Trump the Electoral College in 2016, right? And period. Those voters, that's what they're for. And there's only two reasons to do that. One is, and this is the charitable side, is that, again, they are wonderfully empathetic, caring human beings who genuinely give a shit, and they've had their empathy hijacked by awful fucking people. They have been sold a bill of goods and have bought an upside down worldview. And it isn't because they're bad. I'm talking about a specific set, Andy. There's a half of the folks who aren't going to vote for Biden are like, they're standing strong, but they're kind of standing strong in their ignorance of reality. They are refusing to make an adult choice in a situation. They are refusing to choose less evil in a decision that they believe is the lesser of two evils, like a fucking adult would do in a real situation, because real lives matter. Again, one need only look that these are the very people who gave us the removal of the rules of engagement in the beginning of the Trump administration that were put in place under Obama to minimize civilian casualties, that drove the civilian death count on American drone strikes up 80% in the first year. There were more civilians killed in U.S. Drone strikes in the first year of Donald Trump than in the entire 8 years of Obama. And if you can shrug off that and go, well, nobody's good. So, all right. Well, I think the mass of human beings that died because you were like, what's the difference? Fucking difference. What's the fucking difference? I don't know. What's the difference between eight? It's obviously the trolley, the trolley conundrum, or whatever, the trolley logic conundrum, which is, you don't have a choice whether to pull a lever or not. You can only pull it left or right, and you pull it to the left, it'll hit one person. The trolley, runaway trolley will hit one person. The runaway trolley will hit 12 people and children and all kinds of shit, right? That's the thing. And these folks are saying, I'm going to actively pull it towards the side with more people to show those people that there shouldn't be a trolley at all. That seems to be the art. It's fucking lunacy. And again, this isn't a situation. Eugene Troll is not back on today. I think they have another day off. And by the way, Alina Habba was at the New Hampshire gathering or whatever. She tested negative on Monday, but she still showed up to a campaign event feeling like shit, I guess. I guess because Melania wasn't going to be his date. Is that going to be our? That seems to be the thing. That's honestly. But anyways, so these folks, there's about that group of voters, that chunk of voters, is the max number of voters that Biden will lose this time around. These are the people who are like, fuck Roe v. Wade, fuck making any material difference. Actually, quite frankly, fuck all Palestinians, because if Donald Trump got in, he would just tell Benjamin Netanyahu to curry favor with Benjamin Netanyahu. He'd just tell him to bulldoze the fucking place and then want to be first in line to build a hotel there. He'd get totally in bed with the Saudis and give them, a go ahead to roughshod, use whatever material strikes they would ever want on the Houthis entirely, right? Civilians and all. There'd be no targeted strikes. Goodbye. If Donald Trump gets in, goodbye targeted strikes. And it's not even a question. When he was in office already, he did it. That his response was, and that's why he was like bragging, oh, we got rid of ISIS, which he didn't, but we got rid of ISIS in 4 months, and they said it was going to take 4 years. You know why they said it was going to take 4 years? Because if you're trying not to kill civilians, it's a long process. If you don't give a fuck about civilians, shit, you could clean the whole place up in a month. Here you go. Since I've only got about 10 minutes left, I'm going to say something wildly controversial just for the fun of it. By old world standards, and I mean, I guess even modern standards, the United States as a country has never been involved in a war. Never started a war and never fought an actual war by the standards of war that existed on the planet forever. Because curiously enough, what the Nazis were trying to do in their effort to just, they were basically trying to take over the world. They'd like wipe out, fuck everybody who's not German or Japanese, and we'll get around to the Japanese later. Nope. And here's why I think this, and that's defensive. We have defended ourselves in a war, but we haven't actually started one, and I'll tell you why. Because a war itself, and I think this applies to a lot of countries, a war is about the elimination of the enemy entirely. American wars have all been by proxy. No, they have not. World War II was not a proxy war. World War I was not a proxy war. Vietnam was not a proxy war. If you want to call them wars, that's what I'm talking about. They have all been largely police actions where we were going to back out later. Because again, if we were if you look at the Spanish wars in South America and Central America, everybody speaks Spanish now for the most part. See what I mean? As the primary language. If you look at what the Germans were trying to do in Poland and all these kind of places, they were trying to not just give a form of democracy or a form of government or try to support the form of government or the ideals of democracy someplace. They were there to institute their own, not only their own system of government from their capital, right? Running the place as an imperial power, including the French and the British all throughout Africa and the Middle East, right? The U.S. never did that. Well, the War of 1812 was an attack on us. And again, that's defensive. We were defending ourselves. The difference is that a war this is the distinction I'm making, and this is what I'm saying. A war itself, if you are declaring war, I don't think a defensive war is the same thing, but that's another, this is semantics. This is what I've been kind of mulling about this, is that the idea of a war is to basically, Filipinos speak Spanish largely. What are you talking about? Everybody speaks English because of business, not because of war. Yes, the World War I and World War II were European wars, right? But our participation in it was never a war power. It was never to take over. Well, the Revolutionary War was also defensive. We were attacked because we declared independence. And by the way, this is, is America declaring war on Canada? No. Unless you're talking about the dairy wars of Wisconsin versus all of Canada. Yes, the U.S. has never engaged in a totalitarian system of war ever. The illusion or the idea of imperial American power or America as an empire gets thrown around like fucking crazy. And you can have a moral problem with, Vietnam wasn't even that. Vietnam was the idea of we were helping one side win over the other, but we weren't instituting our system of government or even enforcing it. We were just helping them fight off the communists who were backed by China in particular, which is odd because we saved China from the Japanese, and that's a whole long another story. That's funny. If we hadn't done that, most Chinese people would be speaking Japanese right now. It's very strange. Anyways, Hawaii was the claimation of territory, but it was never specifically a war. But point being is that a war to me, in its pure sense, because a lot of people are like, uh, I heard the song "War, What Is It Good For?" Absolutely nothing to get. Okay, like that, I agree. Exercising war for an imperialist sense. Well, Native Americans aren't a monolith, John. Which Native Americans are you talking about? You talking about the Cree, the Mohawks, the Comanche, the Pawnee, the Lakota? Because those are the ones we made deals with, and they had already wiped out the other tribes that were in that area or absorbed their women. So are they somehow like animals and not human beings? No. Every human being on the planet is an equal human being, and they all have the capacity for greatness and horror, and over the course of their lives, they may fucking do both. Right. Go look up the Apache here. Well, okay. All right. Interesting history of the Apache there. Apache raids. That's a difficult one. And by the way, the purpose of that was the Apache raids was to wipe out entire tribes and take their women and thereby breed them out of existence, which is very much what the British tried to do with the Irish. Yeah. So, anyways, point being, there are multiple tribes and there are multiple. I mean, Tecumseh sided with the British. He sided with the monarchy because he believed the chieftain was much closer to a king and that's how government should be run. A war on drugs wasn't a war, and it's a stupid analogy. Cherokee Trail of Tears. There were, that there were the Cherokee brought their slaves with them on the Trail of Tears. Do you know that part? They still had African American slaves. They'd be African Americans now, but they weren't at that point. They brought them with them. A lot of them died, actually. That matter? Does it matter? Does it matter that that tribes in the United States kept slaves 10 years after the Civil War outlawed slavery? No, not okay. That was the point. Anyways, I'm saying humans are humans. Like we all have the capacity for good, and so and in a good portion of the tribal fights in Europe and over here and in South America, and right, they were here first. Where on Earth, right? So again, we're talking about magic rocks at that point. And who was here first? I mean, the Pawnee were there before the Lakota wiped them out. Large part, right? So are the people that wipe out the Lakota avenging the Pawnee if they're not Pawnee? Yeah. I just say, again, the conversation, once it moves out of the binary and people stop treating other human beings like they are antelope instead of humans. Yeah. I think that's better. Anyways, so point being is that a war, and by the way, we weren't the United States largely during a greater portion of that. This is another British thing. But the point being is that the United States in its modern form, certainly since I would argue since the Civil War, has not been involved, has not actually instigated a war. There's a lot of people talk about we haven't, nothing's been a declared war, since World War II. That's because they aren't really wars. They've been police actions. They've been these things where we're like, we want to help stabilize this thing, or we maybe side with one side over the other. And there's the atrocities of Pol Pot being what they are, the Japanese attack on Nanjing. There's, the myriad of things where, for better or worse, and in some case wrongly, in some case rightly, in some cases we should have gotten involved, we didn't, and in other areas we got involved and we shouldn't, that it's still not technically a war, because the intention was never to wipe out an entire people and take their shit. And you could argue even the establishment of reservations as an idea is different than even how the tribes ran the territory before other people showed up. So, So that's a question for you. I'm curious what your thoughts on it, because it's not something you can actually. Yes, I'm doing a late show today, and I'm going to bug out in about 2 minutes because I got to jump over to Bob Seska's show. But I would like you to just germinate on that idea. I'm not trying to convince you of this idea. I want you to and if it makes you, hopefully, if it makes you go and do a deep dive into some variance in history that you may not have either learned or or been either been, you've kind of narrowly focused on one part of it where you've kind of ignored the other part, or you weren't even aware of it. Human nature is not depressing. It's constantly improving. I mean, we're not eating our young on the regular, or like chimpanzees on the regular, tearing our and eating alive our combatants on the regular as a way of showing territory. Believe me, we got it going on. You're sitting in front of a computer more than likely, or you're on your phone. You're not in some sort of, well, Andy, yeah, that's true. You may be a complete savage. It's entirely possible. I won't rule that. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum, but I want you to just ruminate on that idea. Howard Zinn's a bit of an ass, and he plays. I loved his. I read the book when I was I read it in the fucking 90s, but it's a sales pitch, and there's a fundamental racism to the downplaying of the humanity of groups of people as if they weren't participants in their own future at some point, because they were. So, and again, this is the nature of believing that all people are all human beings are equal in their potential. And the question is, how do you get them to live up to it as much? Everything's a sales pitch? No. Some stuff is factually clear. I mean, you don't have to be sold on gravity, McJet, and more than likely, you might have to be reminded to put your seatbelt on, but you don't need to be. It doesn't matter if the sales pitch is just to try to save your life, not whether your life matters. That's up to you. Yeah. So, and it's so funny because I got Zinn's book off of KPFK. Anyways, I got to jump over to Bob Seska's show. I love you guys. I want you to just ruminate on that idea. And if it makes you mad at me, I completely understand. Yes, and Douglas Adams is a god. There you go. Cheers.